This film reviews the things that led to the construction drawings of April 22nd, things I ran into and what I had to put in there, etc. So I started with the bath, and we had 4 foot through there. We have these half walls behind the vanities at that setback for the 6-inch deep medicine cabinets. And I reduced this by 6 inches so that these, if a person wanted to, those could be kitchen cabinet depth vanities. And maybe that's all a bit too much, and you might want to just do it like this. And alternatively, these could be 21 inches deep, and these ones back here then could be 9 inches deep. There's just a lot of storage that can happen in here. And so this is where this water closet roughing is at 1'6" from the framing. And this is what that skylight looks like. And that skylight, you can see it from down here at the bottom of the stairs, even from the hallway itself. That light is going to be hitting this wall and helping illuminate this when that bathroom door is open. I guess that probably finishes like that. And then this skylight, shown on the plans, is a 21-inch wide, the C08. They're both the same length, but depending on what you encounter up there, I don't know. But the C08 is already a lot of light. So this can almost be ignored. I would probably not even put that in there if I had a choice now. But I would just put in the C08, which is framing up for 21-inch wide. And I always try to put this bottom one on a slight angle so it doesn't look so stock with that straight vertical. And this comes out at a 90 from the roof plane. So there's that toilet flange coming through here, right there. And the only place I really see for that to go down is in that little short stub wall. And of course, the length of that stub wall is variable, so you can do what you need to with that. But if you do this, you're going to have to header those off, and those are going to be doubled, even though they don't need to be. They will need to be for kettering. This is all just doubled 2x10 members. And the windows, there's not a window and door schedule, but if a window or door has a label, then it's involved with the plan, so be careful. And this one in that bathroom has to be a new one, because that is the existing one according to my dimensions. And out here, that one has just been relocated. And there's a little short section working on this chimney. I have these trusses coming down, and originally I had them like this, and you can do it like this if you want to, but I have just reverted to leaving that 14-inch beam in there. And there's a note on the plans, which you may have noticed, that can be smaller, but the bearing stays the same, and the trusses come down and bear on that through this wall framing up here and sit directly on that beam. And I framed that at 12'1" to start with, just with 12-foot pre-cuts. And this is going to be, this red, this is kind of the minimum that you're going to have to be, is another 4 feet up there. And I returned to this after the one preliminary set of plans and did some more work with that chimney, and ended up, this top piece comes all the way up to almost 6 feet, like you see it up here already. So these are the scissor trusses through here. This is just your stick framing here. That's actually a truss too, I guess, there. And these are the interior trusses here. Now, I don't know, we will actually return to that in a moment, where I will cover a section view on the interior. Oh, all of these joists down here run this way, north-south, and we have ours running east-west. And I guess if you wanted to, or to do it that way, that is what it would take to run those joists the same direction. That's just for your records. I've drawn what is shown, which is the 2x10s like that. And I have this taking 5 courses to go down, 5 courses a block to go down and get that 32 below grade and get this maintained as 1'6" minimum in here. This brown line is my estimation of the existing grade. I would assume that you would just scrape off enough of that that you can put this gravel in there. Up here, this is kind of critical, and this is just with the nailing of these members together. And altogether, we're going to be carrying 1,102 pounds per lineal foot. So we have to get enough fasteners through there to carry that, which is like 8 to 12 or so. 1102 divided by 134. And the way I've done that is these are your standard hangers, just LU28s, and those are enough to hold the 910 pounds from this floor load. But the rest of this load that comes down through here, we want to get this existing 2x10 rim joist, and I've changed that now. This assumes that this plywood, this sheeting out here, is replaced. It would be okay if that was even 7/16 really, so that these nails, these 16D nails, penetrate in further. But this was earlier, and I did some more changes on this before it was all said and done. Yeah, see, I assume that that's all just stripped off so that we have good, not this whatever's happening here. So we have good plywood sheeting or whatever. This is a section that's not shown on the plans because you can see these are clear span trusses, but our heel height gets pretty small out here, and they would normally then want us to increase this insulation from R38 to R49, and they may still want us to do it, but I don't show any kind of cornice detail where I would have to show the polyethylene insulation baffles up through there. And over here you will just have to do what it takes, and I don't know if that's going to entail, there's probably a rim joist in here already, and I don't know if that's going to entail hanging on that rim joist, but you'll know more when that's all ready to go, or opened up and ready. With the trusses like this, it looks like we will have to have attic access, and that's one place there, and the only other place is probably over here. It's a little tight, but they'll probably still approve that, which puts it over in that bedroom. So that will have to be accounted for one way or another, and I don't know how you can come in from the bottom anywhere reasonably. So that's what's shown on the plans there. Now I guess we return to this chimney, and I reduced its mass some, but then increased this. We did a project on Briar Hill Drive in 1997, and we had a pretty high chimney, and it was not drawing. They were kind of in the woods, and they had house structure around it like this one does, but we had to come back and add another 10 feet to the height of this chimney, or that chimney, to get that to draw, particularly as large as your firebox is planned to be. So I've brought it up at least that far anyway. Even I think I end up bringing it up even higher, like this. And I think these are 12-foot walls and then 6-foot walls on top of that. But it's showing 5-foot walls. There they are. It's 6 foot plus the plates, so 6 foot 4.5. Gets it up above this ridge and above this window, and etc. So that's how that was developed. And depending on what firebox, these walls can be within 2 inches of this particular pipe. So this doesn't even have to be, if you want to do something creative with stepping that back, a person could. When I returned, and I double checked all the beams, all the members in here, I double checked just to be sure. This one still would pass with 22 inches. I'm continuing to show it at 24 inches, in part so that we can get more overlap on solid plywood to join that with the existing 2x10. But one of the things that happened when I returned, I reduced a couple of these members, most notably this 1F went down to just the 2x10s. And that one went down because it's holding nothing. But this here, this beam F is actually going to be located by wherever that flange is and wherever your first existing 2x10 joist is. And then that one will be put on. And these ones will be put on, and those ones presumably taken off. They could be drilled, for that matter, at that point, and have this run through them like that. Now, once that happens, once you have this point load here, and you also have this lighter point load over here, you have to account for that on how many fasteners you use at those locations. And I went to using SDSs, and I'm actually going to use 6 of them instead of 4, just like they show here. And that's what's shown, I believe, on elevation B. And so we have presumably solid sheeting through here. Hopefully it's only a 1/2 inch thick, no more than a 1/2 inch thick. If it's all unsound through that whole backside, it should just be replaced anyway, just to keep that rigid, because you're also reframing a window or 2 windows through there. But this first member, and I may have said this earlier, that's going to get nailed into every stud that is found up there, and including the bottom plate, as well as 2 more nails into this existing 2x10 rim joist. And these 3 are going to be on a straight vertical, and then these ones should be on some sort of angle, and all the rest of these will be laid out on angles according to the notes down here, right here. But in terms of, this is where it gets critical. We're going to use an LU28, and even though you could just use 1.5 into this, we're going to use 16D through that, 6 16Ds through that LU28. And with what's on the other side, that will give us enough fastening through here to carry that 1102 lineal foot. So that's what's going to be shown. I don't know if it's shown here, but that's what's going to be shown on the final, that's what is shown on the plans you have now, right here. And so that's on the front side of this, and on the back side of that, everywhere there's a stud up here and beam A exists down here, there's going to be 3 nails vertical that come onto that. They're up in here. There'll be 3 nails vertical all up in here that come onto that beam A, and then as well as 2 more. And this is from the back side of beam A and beam C over here. And this is what I measured as the heel heights. So you might even just have to plan on having some insulation baffles here and running R49, maybe it's just blown insulation up in here. That's when we come in then to that beam A, we have these nails on these studs, and I just have them at 60. You don't have to have them everywhere, but I mean, if you know it's there, you may as well. But I have them at 16 inches on center, and then for the lower part, I would just run this row here is into the wall plate, of that wall up there. And for the lower ones, this one's 2 inches up from the bottom. And these are just at that V shape, a W shape, as you go through like this. So I may have wanted to cover that as well. So if this is put together like this, I have no problem. I'm positive it will be just fine. And if you use those 22s, it probably doesn't matter. But recall, we had to rate the attic floor at bedroom weight, bedroom 30 pounds per square foot. So in the probably unlikely event, but in the event that an expansion is wanted on that 3rd floor, there's probably capacity on that 24-inch beam to carry additional roof and wall load, which is probably just one more reason to keep it at 24 inches. And I think that's all then. Well, there is another section. And that last section is just a couple of these outside looks. And this probably could be helped a little bit if this depth could be reduced depending on what kind of a firebox you need or want inside. And then the only other thing I thought of is that maybe that whole piece is moved in, 4 to 6 inches. If that happens, whether that molding goes around or whether the brick runs straight up. So that was just a few different considerations. And that is definitely it. Good luck, and feel free to call me or email me or whatever with any kind of questions. So thank you very much.